I would like to introduce you guys to Jamaica. And Jamaica is a mom who is currently giving her child CBD and CBG. And we're going to talk to her for a little while. She's going to give her side of the story. Is there anybody here who does not know what CBG is? Just raise your hand. Go to the little reactions thing and raise your hand if you don't know what CBG is.
Well, I've heard of it, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Oh, okay. So, Savella, is that,
Savella.
am I saying that right? Savella?
Savella, yes.
Savella. Okay, so Savella, let me give you a quick intro. CBG is a lot like CBD in that it is non-psychoactive, so it won't make you high, it won't make your kid high. It tends to be a little more stimulating than CBD, so people are taking it in the morning and for focus and energy. And it tends to have the opposite effect, I think, on kids with autism, where it calms them down more. It does give them more focus. It helps with anxiety, and it's got a whole lot of health benefits as far as like gut issues, any kind of gut issues. It seems to work better for pain than CBD does. And glaucoma, it works for glaucoma. Depression, it seems to be better for depression. And what we're seeing with kids with autism is an increase in speech. But I'm going to let Jamaica talk a little bit more about that because I don't have any kids that have autism. So she's the expert. So we're going to let her talk a little bit about it. And if you guys have any questions, just raise your hand with the little reactions thing, and we'll get to your questions, because this really is more about educating you. And if you have a question, somebody else may have the same question, or it may teach them something that they didn't know. Okay, so without further ado, Jamaica, welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. So I'll start off with my story a little bit, just so you know the background of how I got to where I am. So my son was diagnosed with autism at 22 months. He was diagnosed early because he had no communication, like not just no words, but no gestures even. And his, he was frustrated. So there was a lot of temper tantrums. There was no violence or any damage done, but he was trapped in his own body and his own mind, it seemed like. But so I was very grateful for that sign, at least, because I know a lot of, more, I hate to use the word highly functional, but, kids who have some language, I think they get diagnosed later and it's harder because you're not jumping into it right away. So I'm a type A personality. I have my law degree. So I'm a very control freak sort of. So I wanted to take control. So he received therapy, and I did all this research. I'd found that there was a study done where broccoli powder worked to help with inflammation. I couldn't get my hands on the medical grade broccoli powder, but I did the closest I could get, and it seemed to actually help a little bit, but not enough to stop looking for another solution. So at around 7, when he was around 7, that's when I discovered CBD. And that was let's see, how old was he? So it was like 2018. So I started with CBD. I joined the Whole Plants Access for Autism, which is a Facebook page that everybody on these videos have talked about. And they have a vetted, the most wonderful thing about them, I mean, there's many wonderful things, but one of the most important things is that they have a list of vetted manufacturers. Because there's a lot of crap out there. And what you're getting at your grocery store, or even at your natural homeopathic store, it's not going to be, even if it is, you won't know because it hasn't been vetted. They haven't looked at the reports of what they're putting in there. So So that list was really helpful, and I'm in California, so it's a lot easier to access some of these products. But so I decided on Flower Child, and to be honest, I don't remember why. I think I just like the way the information was presented to me online, I think. But so I started with the CBD, and I saw a difference, but I started at 25 milligrams, which is what they suggest you start with. You're supposed to go, low and slow and gradually increase as you need, if you aren't seeing the differences that you were hoping for. And he definitely improved with CBD. I kept increasing, and I was hoping to find that sweet spot. I don't think I necessarily got to it with CBD. So so I guess it's been about I guess in March 2019, Flower Child had come up with CBG, and I had done all this research on it, and the Facebook page that also is very what's the word, proactive at figuring out the new products that work the best, the new cannabinoids that work. They had talked about CBG helping a lot with language. And my son that's his biggest problem, is his communication and his language. So I decided to try this CBG, and so I first got the CBG 700 from Flower Child just to try it out. And I I just couldn't believe the difference. It was just shocking to me. And I start to think, I'm very much a self-doubter. I'm like, oh, I'm just seeing it. I'm seeing it because I want to see it. I just I always I'm always very pragmatic. I don't want to be emotional about it. I want to be clinical and really know that it's working. So my husband's, very involved with the kids, but he doesn't really know what I'm doing with them with that stuff. So he really noticed a difference. I mean, and it was pretty immediate. I hate to say that because I don't want to set people up, but it was pretty immediate. It was like the day of giving it to him. He just had spontaneous sentences. He's not only talking about what he wants, but he's also talking about observations, of his life. Like, oh, look at that bird, or oh, I really like it when this, and we were like, what? Excuse me, what did you just say? We couldn't believe the words were coming out of his mouth. So he also, I don't know whether it triggered something with his language or whether it was that anxiety was lifted and that allowed him to access his language. That's something that scientists, I think, probably know best, or maybe they don't even know why it works the best. But either way, it really changed his life. And of course, because he was able to speak, his temper tantrums, his behaviors drastically minimized. Because they were born out of frustration mostly. So he used to, in public, like fall on the floor screaming. It's very socially alienating. I mean, I don't necessarily care about the embarrassment part, but very difficult to control. And he hasn't done that since we've been taking CBG. I mean, if he gets upset, it's just a whine or something. Like nobody would even notice it. So he's come so far on it. And to add to that, I'm also I just started, Flower Child just came out with CBDA, and of course I ordered it right away because CBDA, they just had that study in Oregon, right? University of Oregon, I think, about how it could provide protection for COVID. So and also it has all of these wonderful effects of anti-inflammatory and anti-anxiety as well. So I figured I would add that in because, like we discussed in previous videos, you have to look for the entourage effect. You don't want to just take one of the cannabinoids. First of all, you want it to be whole spectrum, so it has all of the goodies in it, but it's very helpful to add in CBD and CBG, or CBDA and CBG. That really it brings out the best in all the oils for some reason, because it just works together. It's from the same plant, so it works together. So that's why I'm sort of playing around with it. And I want to say my biggest message to you guys is that I know how scary it is. Like your child's diagnosed, you don't know what to do. Doctors, more than doctors at one point, because you're doing so much research because it's your child, right? And it, I know it's scary to give children what you think of as being like a drug. And the FDA has done a really good job of villainizing this drug. I mean, they have conflict of interest in this, because they don't want, the government doesn't want you to plant your own medicine. I mean, it's a construct that's very very rigid and has been going on for decades, and it's still going on. States seem to be realizing that it is not harmful and it's very helpful, but there's still a very big campaign against people having access to this. So I don't. My whole point is I was scared too, like to try it. I didn't really know anybody personally who had done it. I just had my online family or whatever to support me, but and you don't know how to dose. I mean, you get suggestions from online and from experts online, but your doctor's not going to be able to tell you. So it's really I know it's really scary, but if I hadn't taken that leap, I don't know what kind of life my child would have. I can't even imagine what he might be like right now. He's in regular school. He takes ballet, he swims, he's engaged with his family. We can take him to restaurants, even like fancy restaurants, and he's fine. We take him on a plane. There's no problem on planes. I mean, if he was not able to access this medicine, then I wouldn't be able to go anywhere, I don't think. I think it would be, we would just be isolated. And I think there's so many parents that are out there. And it's heartbreaking. And you think, my God, this is my life. This is my child's life. This is my life. But if there's no downside to this. I mean, there are some states that are very restrictive, and I understand that really puts the fear in you. And I know that I'm coming from California, which is, very supportive. But if you just take that leap, I think you'll look back and be like, oh my God, I can't believe I waited as long as I did. We're sort of in our own way sometimes. So that's really what I wanted to tell parents is, I'm a parent just like you, and I was scared to death and like really unsure and worried about my child. And I'm telling you, this is really groundbreaking, and there's a reason why it's everywhere. And you just have to make sure you pick the right product, and you're careful with the dosing. I mean, if you get the dosing wrong, there's no way your child's going to overdose. I mean, for CBD, like if you get it wrong, then they might just like be sleepy, but it wears off, and it doesn't do any permanent damage from all the studies. So it's not like it's about better than the antipsychotic drugs that a lot of these parents are being prescribed for their child. That has major problems with organs and addiction, and it's just so that's my spiel there.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks, Jamaica. And yes, just so that you guys know that you cannot overdose on weed or CBD or marijuana for that matter, because our endocannabinoid system, which is throughout our whole body, there is no cannabinoid receptors in our brainstem, and cannabis attaches to these cannabinoid receptors within our bodies. There's none in our brainstem, and that's important because our brainstem is what controls our breathing. And to know that there's no cannabinoid receptors in the brain, you cannot overdose. Now, however, there are opiate receptors in your brainstem, and that is why so many people overdose on prescription drugs, because they just stop breathing. So cannabis is very, very safe. And as Jamaica said, you know, if you take too much of it, all you're going to do is feel sleepy, and you know, you can take a nap, something like that. So do we have any questions about dosing, things like that?
And I've been caring for an elderly parent, and she has since passed, my mother. That's been going on for 2 years. But I did work with her with CBG, and that really helped her in her dementia. I was really surprised because at times she would be very angry and just out of it. She was confused, and the CBG really helped us and her, you know, think clearly. She walked better. Her walking was
Wow.
better, speech was better. So I do know that during the time I was dosing Brisa, and I even use it myself. I'm 66 years old, and yeah, I'm getting up there, and I'm not, you know, the spring chicken anymore. But I do notice, you know, the effects that it does do. And my lungs are bad. I used to work in a phosphorus plant, and I don't know what the CBG or CBD, but it does help me breathe.
Nice.
Also, I'm
yeah.
so happy to hear you say that, because I'm helping my mom as well. And I was wondering if the CBG would help her
Yeah.
with her helping with her memory as well. Yeah. I'm
She'll
happy
be
to hear you say
nicer to you.
Well, what they're finding too is that CBG is helping with the brain and helping to regenerate brain cells. And
Oh my
whether
God,
this is what's helping with these kids with autism, that all of a sudden they can, you know, they have better speech, and you know, they can talk better than they were talking. I mean, it's amazing what it's doing. And is it really affecting the brain? We don't know, because no research is being done on cannabis, basically because big pharma cannot make any money, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't make money from something, they're not going to do any research on it. And the same is going to happen with the psilocybin mushrooms and all these psychedelics that they're now talking about, that's helping with depression and anxiety and trauma and all this stuff. But, you know, no research is being done other than these people that are coming in and doing it on their own, and they're putting their own money into it, right?
Right. Yep.
So this is why it's you just kind of have to it's trial and error with the kids, and with parents that are really scared about giving their kids cannabis. What I say is take a dropper full yourself.
Yep.
Take a dropper full and see what it does to you, because it's probably going to do the same to your kid, right? And what it's going to do is it's going to make you either feel more stimulated or more sedated, depending on the CBD or the CBG. And sometimes with kids that have autism, it works the opposite. So the CBG is more calming for them. Whereas if you took the CBG, you might be more stimulated, like you'd have a cup of coffee or something.
Gotcha. Okay, that's exciting. That's very exciting to hear. It's so funny because I ordered you guys CBG, and I don't think I've ever opened it. I think it's still in my whole collection of supplements and CBD. So
well, it lasts a long time, so you'll be fine. And it lasts because it's got remnants of alcohol in there that kind of preserves it. And I've got stuff that I've had for 8 years, and I gave it a sniff the other day, and it still smelled all right. So yeah,
because I think I've had mine about 4 years maybe. I've ordered it when I first started his journey, my son's journey. He is going to be 8 soon. I started his journey when he was about 2 years old, and so CBD definitely was a game changer in his speech and cognitive enhancement, like just total game changer out of many of the protocols that I did on him. But he's high functioning. He does have some struggles with saying some words clearly, so I'm hoping CBG would maybe clarify that up some for him, because he'll say, instead of L, he'll say W, Waller. Instead of lion, he'll say Wyan.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that the CBG may clear that up a little bit for him. Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, you might want to try that during the day versus at night.
Okay.
Because it may stimulate him to where he doesn't sleep. So, just kind of experiment, maybe on the weekend or something like that.
Okay. I will. Yeah, he's in summer school right now. So summer school, he goes 9 to 1. So when summer school is over the end of this month, I'll experiment with it for
There
sure.
you go.
I'm gonna order another bottle though, because I want to give some to my mom as well. So I'm gonna order another, because she just came to me about a week ago helping her out. So I'm gonna
Okay,
order another
what I would recommend for your mom
bottle.
is the blend, the
The
CBD
blend.
CBG blend. It's a
Okay.
50-50 blend. And what you can do is you can give it to her at night,
Okay.
and it'll help her sleep. And then the next day when she wakes up, she'll be more alert and
Oh.
focused and have more energy.
Oh, wow. That's exactly what I need
That one's
for
the
her.
best.
Okay, I'll get that. I'll order that
Yeah.
today. I already got you guys assistance program. Yes, so I'll order that today. I've been with you guys since the beginning. You were my first too. It's just like Jamaica said, you were my first choice as well
Oh,
years ago.
good. Well, thanks for being such a loyal customer. We appreciate that.
I send everybody to you. Everybody. Yeah,
Thank you so much. Thanks.
you're welcome.
Okay, I think we have a question. Imelda?
Yes, I came in a little later, and I have you all CBD before, but I haven't really gotten into CBG as much as I would like to. My daughter, she has language, but it's not conversational. It's more short phrases. She has a lot of words, but we're really working to get her to the point where, we can have conversations with her. She's 9, and I started with the biomedical journey with her about 2.5. And I too was in the Facebook group that you were talking about, Jamaica. But my question is, I think you mentioned the strength or the milligram number of what you use for your son. And I didn't get that. So I was, what milligram level, I guess, should I start with? And as I use it for her?
Well, for the CBG, they recommend it's lower than CBD. CBD, they recommend you start 25, but CBG you start at 5 milligrams, I believe. And then you just gradually go up until you reach that spot where you think, it's ideal for her. My son is taking a higher dose of CBG than a lot of people use. He's taking like 0.8 milliliters, which I think is like 36 milligrams. But he takes a lot less CBD. So it sort of goes, I have a higher CBG because that just seems to work for his brain. The CBD just didn't stimulate the language like the CBG did. So, and he seems to, he tolerates it fine. And I haven't even noticed him being stimulated. So once again, kids are all different, right? So he doesn't, like, if I give it to him later in the day, he doesn't seem to have a hard time with sleep or anything. But once again, you want to assume they will when you try it out. But so the CBGs start off lower dose than you would with the CBD. Like I said, he's at like 36 milligrams a day, and I only give it to him once a day. I haven't noticed, I mean, he may benefit from one later in the afternoon, but he doesn't seem to, he's not out of control or anything, so I don't give it to him. But yeah, so that's what I use. And I get the 1400 CBG because it's just the highest, and it's got the most kick to the milliliter. So if you're going to use it a lot, you might as well just get the big honey, So yeah. But yes, I hope,
you.
did I answer the question? Does that help?
That makes it clear. I guess I'll just start her off with once a day to kind of see how she does, and then see if I may give it to her in the evening, because we were using gummies from the dispensary to help her with sleep at night, but that doesn't do anything for language. So I'm really something that's going to help me with language. And then my second question is, my dad is currently in at-home hospice, and he has Parkinson's disease. And sometimes he deals with anxiety. So would a mix of CBG and CBD be helpful Kelly?
You know, yeah, I would not give him the CBG by itself. I would either
Okay.
give him high CBD, just the CBD or the blend. And the same
Okay.
as I said for like Savella,
Okay.
you could get the blend for him and give it to him at night, because you know, if he's not used to it, it's going to make him sleepy. And that's what tends to happen if you after about 2 or 3 weeks, your body adjusts to the CBD and you don't feel as tired. But a lot of people find that even with the CBG, taking it during the day, they just feel tired. And your body's got to get used to that. So I always suggest, if you're going to take something, take it at night. And like for people who are just starting out, get the blend, take it at night. It'll help you sleep. And then the CBG will also help with because they both have different health benefits. A lot overlap, but the CBG tends to be better for pain. Both of them are pretty good for anxiety, but a lot of people have found that the CBG by itself is very stimulating. Like they've had a few cups of coffee, and they feel that anxiousness. But that's just some people. Other people, they take it to sleep at night. So it just depends on the chemistry. But yeah, I would definitely start him off with the blend or just the CBD.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, concerns, stories?
I actually have a question. Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi there. I'm Kenny. First time on the call. And sorry, I actually dialed in a little late because I was on another call.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a 4-year-old daughter on the spectrum. No words at all. And I have tried everything like therapy, speech, like all the ABA stuff, OT. Haven't really veered into the biomedical space yet, but well, I take that back. I just started seeing a doctor, and she's really given us supplements, things like, I'm not sure how familiar you are with TMG, glutathione. She wants us to start GABA, which is an amino acid that's kind of a relaxant that everyone typically has, but kids on the spectrum, they don't have as much of it. So they're always just on the go. Is it safe to combine what do you know about that and combining those with CBD, CBG, if anything at all?
Jamaica?
I don't know much about the supplements. I stopped giving supplements to my son when I started with the CBD and CBG, because I wanted to know what was doing.
What?
If
Yeah.
there was a result, I wanted to know it was just one thing, And
Yeah.
And they do recommend that too with all the cannabinoids too. You start one and then you add another, just so you know which one's having the effect.
Okay.
And so from that perspective, I think you might want to, I don't know, like not do the supplements when you're
Yeah.
trying
Yep.
the cannabinoids. But just so your data isn't isn't muddled with the supplements.
Right. No, you're right.
Yeah.
And even with the supplements, that's what I've been doing. Like I start one for 5 days before I start the other to kind of figure out. And to be honest, I've been doing it for like 5 months and I haven't really seen anything.
Yeah.
Like she's
I was
taking
the same way.
yeah, like MHTF, like multivitamins with MTHF, supposed to help with speech. I'm not seeing anything. And I've been really exploring CBG, CBD, and a friend of mine sent me this link. So really new to it. She has her son's on it for 6 months now, and she swears by it. So my question now that I'm thinking about, I need to get my husband in the same boat.
Right.
Because that's like, he's like, you're trying a lot of things. But anyways, CBD and CBG, which should I start with? She's very hyper. She doesn't sit still. Like she's always on her feet, always on the go. No words, a lot of vocal stimming and a lot of like stereotypy. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't even know. But yeah. But she has like great receptive skills. Like if you tell her, go bring this, or let's go upstairs, she knows, she understands, but she's usually sometimes, just like you said, kind of trapped in her own world, in her own mind, and just very absent and unaware. Like she's just not aware that you're in the car or that you're in your cousin's house or you're on the road. Like she just goes with the flow. And how to bring her back to just that awareness, because I have a huge security concern, as you probably
Oh,
would
yes, we
understand.
did as well. We had my son was an eloper when he was younger, and
Yeah,
we had an incident that I'm never going to get over. So
yeah.
um,
No,
that was terrifying, and he would never do that now. And I don't know whether that's maturity or
wow,
I mean, to be honest, I don't know whether it's maturity or the oil.
wow.
But
Okay.
I'm just going to chalk it up to the oil.
Yeah, we'll take it.
But I mean, Kelly would be able to answer this better probably, but
Okay.
because of that sort of hyperactivity component, I would think that CBD would be very helpful for that. But then on the other hand, the CBG would be great for the
Speak.
language component and the sort of being present.
Yeah, that's the
So
word.
I don't know, Kelly, what do you think about
So,
that?
yeah, so Kenny, has the
Yeah.
doctor diagnosed your daughter with ADHD as well?
No, actually, just autism.
Because what we're finding is that the CBD seems to help better with hyperactivity, HD, AD, and the CBG seems to be helping better with autism. So it's, and it's going to take maybe a few experimenting. And, I could say to you, well, you could get the blend with a 50-50, but I would suggest, and I think Jamaica might agree with this, is that you buy two different bottles. You buy a bottle of CBD and a bottle of CBG, and maybe start her off with a quarter of a dropper. And I'd say the 700 maybe. Start her off with a quarter of a dropper of each, and maybe give the CBD in the evening or in the afternoon, and give the CBG during the day, or something where you can see immediately, because you'll see within an hour to an hour and a half
Okay.
something, whether she's calming down with the CBD. And I would just kind of experiment that way. And if you don't find that, maybe, after an hour, give her another quarter of a dropper full until you find that sweet spot. But I would start with the CBD maybe for a few days and see if there was any kind of change. And then maybe introduce the CBG. What do you think, Jamaica?
Yeah, I think, well, and I always overthink things, but sometimes that hyperactivity component could be a result of her unable to, because of her autism. It might not be ADHD. It might be just a symptom of autism, as far as like her trying to take control of herself, or having a hard time dealing with her environment. And it might be some,
Regulating.
stimming or some tics or something, because I mean, I know there's a lot of dual diagnoses of autism and ADHD. That seems to go hand in hand so much. So that could be the case as well. But I think you're right, Kelly. I think that the CBD would help with that, and it might calm her, at least calm her body down. And then, if that calms her down, then you could always add in the CBG and see if that helps with that language component that you're hoping to see.
So the CBG helps kind of, it's a stimulant. It sounds like it wakes her up. Does that make her
Well,
hyper?
it's a stimulant for people who don't have autism, but
Right.
they're finding it has the opposite effect with kids with autism.
Okay.
So I was just thinking that maybe you should just start with the CBG, because that tends to also help with anxiety. I know it sounds like it's a stimulant, but it's more of like a focus. And so what they're finding with these kids with autism is that they're focusing more in school like never before. And they're getting along with their peers like never before. They're sitting still, and they're quitting that stimming where they're doing that constant back and forth motion or beating themselves up. They're just getting along better. And that's, I think, just not being anxious. They're not as anxious. So maybe start with the CBG.
Okay.
And after a few days, if you haven't seen that has calmed her down some, then maybe add the CBD and see if that helps as well. because
Okay.
really we're looking at speech here. We're looking at, her speech. And so I think with the CBG, maybe that's the way to go, is start with that, because a lot of people have noticed that there is anti-anxiety in the CBG with these kids.
Okay.
Right.
And
The
you
side
said,
effect of the CBG may be to calm her body down,
Right.
She that active body may be just her trying to find her own self-coping skill with whatever's happening with her in her brain.
yeah.
So she
Okay.
doesn't necessarily have ADHD. It might just be a component of the autism and the anxiety that's caused by the autism. So
Right.
yeah.
And what is the dosage and for the CBG? Is it on a bottle? I didn't get it
Yeah,
when you were.
so I would suggest, because
She's
she's only
4.
4, I would get the CBG 700.
Okay.
We have a 350, a 700, and a 1400. So
Okay.
I would get the 700 and start with a quarter of a dropper full, and just kind of observe every hour. So an hour, 15 minutes. It seems to hit at exactly an hour, which is quite incredible. But so an hour and 15 minutes. If you haven't noticed anything different, give her another quarter of a dropper full, and kind of keep giving that quarter of a dropper full every hour until you notice something, and just make sure you're writing it down. So okay, at 9 a.m. I gave her a quarter of a drop. At 10 a.m. I gave her a quarter of a drop, so that that okay, by 11 o'clock she's had 3/4 of a dropper full, and that seems to be the sweet spot. That seems to be what's calmed her down. And so the next day you can start with 3/4 of a dropper full, and then go from there. And usually it lasts about, now depending, you say she moves around a lot, it may stay in her system for 4 to 8 hours. And it just depends on the kids. Like for adults, you can have it in your system from 8 to 24 hours, depending on your activity level. Kids, it kind of burns off quicker, but you're looking at around 4 hours, I would say. What do you think, Jamaica? Maybe longer?
Yeah, maybe even longer. Yeah, my son, I give it to him in the morning before school, and then he's good the rest of the day, frankly. I mean, and of course it just depends on the kid, right?
Mhm.
So like I said, he could benefit from having a dose later in the day, but he's not as challenged at the end of the day when we're winding down.
Mm.
So that's just a personal preference. So I'm not exactly sure when it wears off, but it seems to last through the day at school at least. So
Great. Okay.
so that it does last quite a while. And I would also suggest, and this has been suggested before on these videos, the dropper is not super precise. I mean, everything comes with droppers, but the whole plan Access for Autism has, and you can also get it, I think, from your doctors, I think, little milliliters syringes, and they go by 1/10 of a milliliter. So if you want, so I'm sort of crazy about it. I want to know exactly how much he's getting. So then you can do it by 1/10 of a milliliter. So then you know exactly what she's getting and what works. And if you have to up it, you aren't going to up it sloppily. Like you'll know it's how many 1/10 of a milliliter you've gone up. So
Okay.
that's just a suggestion. But I mean, the dropper's fine, of course, but for autism, for kids with autism, they were just saying, being precise is like a really important component of that, I guess.
Right.
So
Right. No, that's very helpful. Okay.
Yeah, and you can get those syringes at Rite Aid or Walgreens.
Oh, can you? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Just a
And
plastic syringe.
Mhm.
yeah, with the markers on them. Yep. Very
Yeah.
helpful.
And the droppers do come with markers on them, but they are made in China, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
there could be some little Chinese person there that doesn't have their glasses on, right?
Right. Right. Like, we're just gonna put this mark here. Do you have any, so what's the longest people have used this, and what was do you have anyone who's used this for 17 years, for instance?
Well, no, because it hasn't really been out for 17 years. So
Okay.
CBD really only came into the limelight, so to speak, I would say about 8 to 10 years ago. Maybe, about then. And then CBG really only made a coming out in about 5 years ago. And we were one of the first ones to have CBG. And even if you look around online right now, you're going to see that there's not that much CBG out there because it's really hard to obtain from the plant, and it's more expensive because it's harder to extract. So I would say that the longest it's been around is 5 years.
Okay.
And we started selling it in 2018, which is 4 years ago. So
Okay.
And I bought it in 2019, so I got it right when you guys came out with it, I guess. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, it's probably only been around 4 years that it's been out. And you know, cannabis is very safe, right? It's been used for thousands of years as medicine, and even in the U.S. the U.S. it was in the medical pharmacopoeia for years. And the doctors in the US used cannabis for just about anything. It was their go-to medicine for everything that ailed you. And then, of course, when it became illegal, the government had to come up with a new name for it because everybody knew cannabis as what was prescribed by doctors. And so what they did was they took the two most popular names in Mexico, Mary and Juan, Mary and John, Marty and Juan, and they combined the two names together to create marijuana, which is the Mexican devil weed that was the demise of the human population. Can you believe that? And so nobody knew it was cannabis. They thought it was something else. And then cannabis kind of slowly just, went away. So, and the reason it was made illegal and the reason it went away is because big pharma came up and they couldn't make money with it. And even then, they still have a patent on it from the 70s. The US government has a patent on the THC and the CBD molecule, yet it's still federally a Schedule I drug. Can you believe that?
So not only that, but now they've joined the bandwagon. They've come up with their own CBD tincture, I think, and it's an isolate, of course, and it's by prescription, so it costs a fortune, I'm sure, and it's not going to be effective if it's an isolate, really. I mean, that's really garbage as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, an isolate, you need 4 times as much to get the same effects as with a full spectrum product. And the difference being is full spectrum means that nothing has been removed from the plant. So they've extracted the cannabinoids from the plant and they've kept everything intact, which is what we do. So you've got all of the cannabinoids, which means that's CBD, CBG, THC, a little bit of THC, and all the minor cannabinoids like CBC, CBN, and all the others they found. It also has all the terpenes, which are the essential oils, which are very, very important for autism as well. It has the plant chemicals, the plant waxes, the flavonoids, everything, and the chlorophyll. Everything is intact in a full spectrum product. And that is what we use. An isolate is an isolated CBD molecule, and they've thrown everything else out. And in order to have those healing benefits, you want all of the plant working together. So you want all of the components, because that creates the entourage effect when everything is working synergistically together. There's a reason the plant has all these other things in them, right? I mean, if lavender didn't have lavender essential oil, it wouldn't be lavender, right? So, so you definitely want to look for a full spectrum brand, and do not buy anything from Amazon, because Amazon does not sell CBD. There's so much snake oil out there. I cannot begin to tell you, because the FDA has not regulated CBD yet. It has not been regulated. So everybody and his brother is out there opening up a CBD company using hemp oil from the seeds, which contain no CBD, no THC, nothing. It's like sunflower oil or olive oil. And people are creating these hemp oil brands on Amazon and charging a fortune for them. So
and the worst part is that people take it, it doesn't do anything, and then they're like, well, see, this is crap. Like
Yeah.
it's just, this is a big old scam, and like it doesn't really do anything. I mean, it's just this self-fulfilling prophecy, which is a shame, it's a shame.
Mhm.
Okay.
So any more questions? No more questions? Come on, there's going to be some questions. Are we all done?
I have one more question.
There, I knew it.
So I guess, so how often do you do these? Like if we have follow-up questions, like is there someone that we can talk to that can help kind of continue to bounce ideas and, oh, this didn't work, or this is what happened? How does that work?
I would suggest this is our last one in the CBD for Autism interviews, so to speak, until, we're going to give it a break because we've done the last 3 months, we've done these 3. And if you, Kenny, if you want to go look at the replays, they are on YouTube.
Okay.
But the next month, we'll probably be talking about the endocannabinoid system, and how cannabinoids work and why they work in our bodies for just about everything. So what I would suggest, if you have more questions, is that you join the Whole Plant Access for Autism Facebook page.
Whole Plant Access for Autism.
Yeah, and I think it's WPA4, number 4A.
That's right.
And you can ask questions there. They have a wealth of information, and all the parents are asking questions. So you could probably get a lot more information from them. So great. We're probably going to be, as I said, meeting next month and talking about cannabinoids and the endocannabinoid system, how they work in the body, why they work in the body. And we'll be doing that. So, and I'll be doing that one. So great. I appreciate you all, and thank you for your patronage and for being part of the Flower Child tribe. We love you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And just know that if you have any questions, you can always give us a call. Okay, Britt will be happy to answer your questions.